Hello, Dr. Alyssa Berlin. I am so happy that you're joining me again here at Birth.World.
Hi, Margot. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm great. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm really excited to record again for everyone. And we always love when you join us. So I'd love to dive into maternity care, like maternal mental health, and how important it is. And I know, you meet so many people on a daily basis and you're helping families. You're kind of in the trenches, as they say. And so how do you feel as a society? How can we help taking care of, start taking care of maternal mental health, and how can we take it seriously?
Right. And that's a really good point. I feel like when we lose our moms and when our moms are the ones that are struggling, the whole family is really in trouble. And to a certain degree, I think it really starts with recognizing this postpartum period as an actual entity. It seems like we spend a lot of time focusing on pregnancy, and birth clearly gets the most airtime in terms of how are we going to navigate that birth? How are we going to, what's our plan going to be for labor and delivery? And for a lot of people, that's really where the education ends. We don't really give a lot of credence to, well, what happens after that baby comes? Mm-hmm. And postpartum is a very unique entity that we need to respect and to protect, because it's a sacred time where if we can block out the outside world to a certain degree or alter the expectations that we have for our new moms and really give them an opportunity to be at home, heal not just from birth, from the entire pregnancy, mm-hmm. right? So you're healing from 10 months of your body going through quite a bit. And give them that opportunity to bond with the baby without a lot of those outside pressures. I think already there we'll see a really nice change happening within the maternal mental health world.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so what about as a society, do you think that there are some attitudes that we need to change about all of this?
I truly believe that we are cruel in a lot of ways to new moms, in terms of the expectations that we put on them. And very often when these expectations are so out of reach, mm-hmm. then it's hard for someone to not feel like a failure. I joke that the name of my first book is going to be You're More Than a Pair of Boobs. And I say that because, first and foremost, we put this pressure on new moms that you have to breastfeed. Yeah. And breastfeeding has to go well. And for whatever reason, if it's not feeling comfortable or right for you, or if it's a challenge for you, somehow you failed as a mom. Not even I'm just struggling in this area. It becomes this global experience that as a mom, you're just not successful. Mm-hmm. So if it goes well, I'm great. And if it doesn't go well, somehow I failed. And that's a really big, heavy message for a new mom to have to contend with, as she's probably trying her best to navigate a brand new world around her. I think that I know that as a society, we also have very lofty expectations of what it means to be a good mom. And when I talk to couples and when I talk to moms, it's this feeling of you somehow have to find this perfection that doesn't exist. But moms will say, well, a good mom cooks all their own homemade food. Mm-hmm. Or a good mom is always completely dressed and put together and happy and cheery and ready to engage with their baby and their children at a drop of a hat. Yeah. A good mom also, and I can keep going on, right? A good mom contributes financially to the family. A good mom is never in a bad mood. And there's all of, again, these expectations and this judgment around what it means to be a good mom. Winnicott was really the first person, I believe, to coin the term a good enough mom. And if we can start moving our society down this path of, I want to aim to be a good enough mom. And for me, implicit in being a good enough mom is this recognition that I take care of my baby, but I'm also kind of realistic with myself. Mm-hmm. And so maybe that means that every now and again we have, at least what we call in our house, wacky dinner night. And it's not this healthy 3-course meal that I was able to prepare. And I don't berate myself for that. I'm okay with that, recognizing that this was a challenging day and we'll get back on track. I think a good enough mom also has this expectation and understanding that taking care of myself is not something that comes at the bottom of the list, but it's truly a priority. Because if as a mom I can charge my own batteries, I'll have so much more to give to my kids. But within the idea or the definition of a good mom, there really isn't a lot of room for a mom to have an identity or to have her own needs and wants.
Yeah.
And that's something that we have to change as a society. That's something that we have to support with our new moms. Give them permission and let them know that it's okay and it's understanding and it's normal to find more of a balance within their lives, especially over this transition to parenthood.
I love opening up this discussion, especially in terms of society as a whole, not just past the family, because, you know, what you say, every mother is probably going to relate to. It's like, yeah, you know, the baby's born. We had all this attention on the mother when she was pregnant. And, you know, it felt good, like opening doors. And like, we have to admit, things, you know, attention is it feels really good. And then when the baby is born, it's like, wow, this new baby, and the attention's on the baby, which is fantastic. But we have to remember there's still this whole other person, this mother, whose world has been totally flipped upside down and totally, completely changed. So I love your advice. And I think people around the mother need to hear it. They need to hear, like, whenever I know, or I haven't, because I've been through two births, I know that when a friend of mine is expecting and she has the baby, I go to her and I say, listen, you know, when have you slept? Like, let me hold the baby, let's turn off the lights and let's get you to bed. And so I love it. And the whole attitude really does need to change as a society. And also all this pressure. I think when you were talking, I thought of the stereotypical, 50s mother in an apron and perfect, you know, looking so perfect and having the 3-course meal already set on the table when everyone arrives home. And that's a lot of pressure, isn't it?
Right. And of course, as you're putting it out there, you're calm and you're pleasant and you know, have just like this easy breezy attitude about yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it sounds nice. I like watching Donna read. I don't know that I've experienced it so much. You know, we have those golden moments and those are great.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's true. And I almost feel like in some ways we should post a little note on the baby that says, I won't mind if you check in with my mom first. Like, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But she's the one who's really needing that attention right now. Like you said, her life, her world was turned upside down.
Yeah.
There's all that hormonal fluctuation that's happening right after she's had the baby. And needing that support and that sense of connection is so vital in helping her get started on the right foot.
Yeah, and you mentioned breastfeeding. I think it's all connected. If the mother is taken care of, it is easier, I dare say, to breastfeed and to do all the things that come with the postpartum period. It becomes smoother. So what about signs of depression? I mean, we've talked about them before. I think it's important to mention again because, you know, as a mom, not all mothers experience mental health issues, of course. I think there's a certain degree. I mean, I remember feeling really down, like kind of the blues. Everything was kind of being sucked out of me. But what are some signs of the real depression?
Right. And like you were saying, you know, upward of about 80-85% of women experience the blues. Completely normal. Happens 2 to 3 days after the baby's born. Usually will last around 2 to 3 weeks. And it's that period of just irritability, moodiness, you know, not feeling quite like yourself. And it's really as you're navigating and adjusting to all of the new responsibilities in your world, as well as your body kind of recalibrating itself, going back to that pre-pregnancy level of hormones that contribute to a lot of those things. And for the most part, they'll dissipate on their own. There's definitely things that we can talk about and that we can suggest to help it move in that direction. But then for a subsect of women, around 20-25% of women, we will see it develop into a postpartum disorder. And that usually will either be a postpartum depression, or lesser known to people is that it actually may present itself in more of a postpartum anxiety disorder. Some of those symptoms of depression are feeling hopeless, sometimes being really self-critical, feeling worthless, really questioning, you know, how efficient you're being at what you're doing. For a lot of women, it comes with the inability to sleep and, you know, dramatic changes in their eating habits, usually not taking in a lot of food. It comes with this feeling of fatigue and sadness more days than not for a period of about 2 weeks is what we're looking at in a regular depression. Sometimes there could be concern or harm about concerning thoughts about harming themselves. And there's this overall feeling of just this heaviness. Another telltale sign of depression is something that we call intensity hassles, when every day hassles that typically we would consider to be minor, all of a sudden have a very pronounced reaction for someone. So in one of those great, post-baby mindless moments, maybe you start the washing machine with the laundry and you forget to put in the detergent. For someone who's struggling with depression, that's going to feel extremely overwhelming and intense and get a very pronounced reaction. Different than if we were feeling kind of more, like ourselves, where we may say, oh, what a goofy thing to do, but okay, I'll edit now or whatever it is. And then, like we said, more often what we're noticing is that a woman's postpartum disorder really presents itself more in this anxiousness and this constant worrying and this inability to really shut off their mind and to feel like their mind is just constantly going. For some women, there's some intrusive thoughts that may happen of concerns about things that may happen to the baby or concerns about their ability to really care for the baby. So those are some of the things to look out for, and it's important for partners to realize that oftentimes they may be the first one to recognize that something's not quite right with their partner. It may be harder for their partner to see it while it's happening, but knowing your partner, you may be able to take that step back and say, you know what, I think there may be something else that's going on here.
Right. That's so important. And I mean, it's the proper care too. I'd love for you to talk about, so for partners or for everyone around the woman, what's the proper care for a postpartum mother, in your opinion?
Great. Well, and the first thing for me is for people to know that anything that will feed your physical self will naturally feed your emotional self. So it's really important that you're eating really healthy, nutritive foods. And, call on friends, families, postpartum food delivery services, whatever it is that you have at your disposal, to really try to get a nice flow of healthy food coming into the house. Taking a shower, brushing your teeth, for some women can be a lifeline of the difference between them feeling subhuman and really feeling human and able to interact and, kind of tackle the world in front of them. Some light exercise sometimes can be helpful. So after you get the okay from your doctor, and we're not talking anything rigorous, but taking a walk around the block with your partner, even just getting outside. For women, there's something really powerful about being outdoors and connecting with Mother Nature. They've done some research where it really helps a woman to feel better about herself, have some better self-esteem and some better, body image. And that could be really helpful, especially after having a baby. Other things that could be really helpful is trying to rest when the baby's sleeping. I'm not a big proponent of telling parents or new moms that they have to sleep. And the reason for that is it becomes a paradox. Most of us can't sleep on demand.
Right.
And I keep trying and I keep experimenting with my kids where I say sleep. And they don't listen. They don't want to.
Yes.
So we know that doesn't work. But what I do recommend that new moms do is that they rest when the baby is sleeping. Taking that phone, throwing it out a window or putting it in another room so you don't hear all those beepings, and the little signals happening. And just doing something mindless, whether it's putting on the radio or putting on a TV program or listening to music, and just giving your central nervous system a chance to kind of just relax for a little bit. Should you sleep? It's amazing. It's a nice perk, but it's not required.
Right. And
taking that pressure off can be a big deal. Something else that's really powerful is touch. There's something magical about touch that signals to a person, anyone, that you are connected. And that there is, support and a bond in place there. And that can be really helpful. They've actually done some really nice studies where they've identified that 15 minutes of daily massage can help to mitigate some of the symptoms of postpartum depression.
Right. So
touch is powerful. We do, and we recognize it for our babies, and we want to bring it back into the realm of a couple. And then talking. Talking is huge. And to be able to create the space where new moms can talk. And maybe they're saying the same things over and over again. Maybe they're still processing their birth in a verbal way and just need to hear it. And for people around them to just be okay listening and not be like, oh my gosh, you already said that, or you're not saying anything new, like, can't we move on? But just to be there and to be a good listener can also be really helpful and powerful. So those are some things that can really help with a mom in that initial postpartum state, not specific depression. Depression really does require professional help, but just as they're naturally segueing into parenthood and that postpartum period, those are all really wonderful things that can start you in the right foot.
Wonderful. And I do want to mention something you talked about, of course, going out for a walk and doing things like this. I want everyone to remember how easy it is these days to do if you want to bring your baby with you as well, because there's carriers. You know, I remember strapping my baby up and just putting them in a carrier, even with a coat over it, and just taking a walk, even if it's a 10-minute walk around the block or something. That was hugely important. And even having that baby near me, for me personally, helped a lot. It was not leaving him at home, because, you know, that could weigh on a mother's mind as well. And perhaps for some mothers, the opposite might be true. Maybe they do need that time, you know, for themselves. So I think every mother is so individual and so different, but I love all of those. And you also mentioned so this is great for the partner to hear, especially the last part of what you were saying. And the partner is also going through all this stuff, the partner, or the father, let's say it's the father, his world has also been a little bit, or a lot, turned upside down. And so that's a whole other topic, isn't it? For fathers, it's important for both partners to hear.
And it is. And you know what? I think in a lot of ways, I know that in a lot of ways we need to kind of enhance the supports that we offer to new dads. First of all, we know that dads can experience a postpartum disorder also, less of a percentage than women, but I'm pretty confident that that number is underrepresented because of the stigma and the shame associated with endorsing that. But for our dads, it's a very different experience and a different entity because, you know, to a certain degree, Mother Nature really outlined what a woman's role is over the course of having a baby. She's going to be the one to carry the baby. She's going to be the one to birth the baby. And should you be so inclined to want to breastfeed, once again, that's mom's role. Very clear. It's been the same since the beginning of time when we were back on the farm and, you know, doing it in that yesteryear or whatever it is.
Yeah.
For men, though, it's very different. Their role is constantly changing, right? We talked about Donna Reed before. If we go back to the era of Donna Reed, well, then the expectation of what a dad has to do to be successful is dramatically different than what it is now.
Yeah.
So they don't have that same blueprint, you know, that we have, and their role is constantly changing. I venture to say that if any man would come home now to their contemporary relationship and say, hey, I was watching an episode of Donna Reed, and I think that that's a great role for me. So every time I come home, have a martini ready for me, I'm going to sit down and read the paper.
Yes.
I mean, that guy wouldn't get through the night.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And so it's important that we be understanding that dads are navigating a brand new world. And they're having to try to find their place in an area that may be undefined. And to give them that support and to have that understanding that, like you said, this is new for you also, and new in a different way.
Yes.
And let's talk about how we can almost carve out a role for dad. Very often we see that when a couple has a baby and they transition to parenthood, it's very natural for dads to withdraw for a lot of different reasons. But whatever the reason is, it's a pivotal mistake that causes a lot of discord within the relationship. So we really do want to help dad navigate what his role is and kind of create that hook to make sure that he feels comfortable staying within the new family unit and can feel comfortable within that role.
Yeah, gosh, that makes so much sense that we could talk so long about that one topic, you know, because there's so many layers and so much to discuss. And so how do you personally help mothers and families, Dr. Alyssa? Can you kind of lay it all out for us, A to Z? What do you do?
Sure. So ideally, what I would do when I'm working with a new mom or a new couple is I'll start working with them during pregnancy. You know, the idea or the adage that there's no parenting manual and you kind of have to just jump in and do it is such an antiquated idea. There is now so much research to support how we can help people more smoothly transition to parenthood. So I offer a lot of different workshops, either in a group setting or in a private setting. My most recent one is the afterbirth plan that really helps couples while they're still pregnant learn about what's going to happen when they transition to parenthood. How can we help them develop more accurate expectations, more realistic expectations of what's going to happen, and really educate them on the changes that are going to occur and prepare for them. So that's my ideal, because whenever possible, I like to prevent issues from happening. And there's a lot that we can do to actually prevent some of those sticky moments that will happen after the baby. Sometimes just knowing that what you're about to experience is normal and not somehow a negative reflection of you as an individual or your relationship with your partner can do a lot to diffuse that stress. After that, I will oftentimes check in with couples after they've had the baby, and just see where they are, do some psychoeducation, sometimes go out to the home, spend an hour with them now that this is all real and actually occurring, and trying to troubleshoot and understand where they are, how they're feeling, and how we can sometimes do some little minor tweakings to get them back on the right track. Or dispel some of the expectations that society, has put on them that now has seeped into their world. And then I also work a lot with moms and couples individually in therapy. If there are any kind of lactation issues or some discord-related issues within the relationship, I'll meet with couples in couples therapy, or I'll meet with moms one-on-one, and really just help them address and navigate what's happening. What we know is that having a baby really puts a spotlight on some of the minor cracks or issues that may have already been existent in the couple, but now they really come to a head. Margot, my analogy for couples in general is that a relationship is like walking up a down escalator, right? So we constantly have to be actively working on bettering our relationship, maintaining our connection with each other, because the second that we stop working, that escalator will naturally just bring us down. Yes. The stress of life, the expectations on us, the financial pressures, whatever it is, will just naturally bring us down. Yes. And in my experience, having a baby or transitioning to parenthood just speeds up that escalator. And so it becomes that much more important that we make it a priority to really support our new couples and help facilitate how they put that time into maintaining that unit with each other.
That makes a lot of sense, and it really puts it into perspective. I love the analogy because it's true. It's almost like you're always, not always, but it's like, you're pushing ourselves up through the different tools that you give and that we learn about in life. So that's perfect. And having a baby certainly does escalate that, doesn't it? It's
so funny because it was so many years ago. I think I was still in my training at the time, and I remember coming home from a late night practicum, and Shania Twain was on the radio, and her song, or the lyric of the song was, "It looks like we've made it." Yeah. And I remember sitting back and thinking like, wow, we don't really ever get to just sit back on our laurels and say, we've made it, we're fine, I can stop trying. Yeah. It doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. And I think there are amazing tools, as you've suggested, to facilitate, being in that space where everyone is just really just living a beautifully happy life and doing the best that we can with the resources that we have. So I thank you so much for all of that. Dr. Alyssa, where can people find you?
You're so sweet. You can find me on the website at www.drberlin.com. That's DOCTOR Berlin.com. Okay. And you can check out some of my different blogs that are all over the internet, and some coming soon with Birth.World.
Thank you. And we love having you. I'm so excited, and I'm really excited to share with all our viewers and listeners that we have huge plans with Dr. Alyssa, so please stay tuned, and I'll be linking everything as well. So thank you once again, Dr. Alyssa Berlin, for joining us, and this is Margot from Birth.World signing off. Bye, everyone.